If you were left stranded in a mall during a zombie apocalypse, how would you survive? In this video, we're gonna analyze the dumbest survivor in movie history and how to survive Dawn of the Dead. Our first protagonist is Nurse Anna at the end of her long night shift at the hospital, where suspiciously a man that came in from a bar fight with a bitten hand is ordered a head x-ray, which I'm sure is not gonna have any catastrophic consequences. On her way home, she manages to totally miss the emergency broadcast on the radio, and while having her romantic night out with her boyfriend and doing some devil's tango under the shower, she even misses the emergency broadcast on TV. Damn girl, you're missing every sign from the universe to save yourself. The next morning, Louis is woken up by the noise of the door opening in their bedroom, and turns out it's their neighbor Vivian, which is not looking very good. He lunges to help her and gets totally bitten in the neck. Pause. Brother, what are you doing? First of all, why is your main door even open and not locked? I get it's 2004, but there's nothing safe about leaving your door unlocked, especially on a romantic night with your girl. Second of all, if you see a girl with a half-torn face, you wait, you don't get immediately close. Poor Louis is totally done for. Anna barely manages to throw the little demon in the hallway and close the door. She tries to patch him up, but that gash is way too big. She goes for the phone and tries to call emergency services, but it's totally futile because all the lines are busy. Unfortunately for Anna, Louis doesn't stay dead, comes back really quickly. And in a moment of panic, she actually manages to do the smartest thing she could ever do, grabbing the keys and getting to safety in her bathroom, locking herself in, without smashing her head, which was a miracle, given how she fell into the tub. For some unknown reason, Anna doesn't immediately leave through the window, but she waits and calls for Louis once again. And zombified Louis gives his best version of "Here's Johnny," and that makes her think, you know what? Maybe it's better if I GTFO and check on him later. One look outside and it's totally clear why emergency services were not answering. Shit totally hit the fan. But luckily now she has the keys and she has her car and just narrowly escapes another attack from zombified Louis and her crazed up neighbors. If you were in this situation driving down the road, where would you go? I would definitely go for a national park where there's loads of drinkable water and grab anything that I can see that can be useful to me, especially food at the first stop that I see without zombies. But first thing first, I would definitely lock the damn doors. Because this is totally what will happen in a situation like this. People freak out, they become savages and try to rob you at the first occasion. She crashes her car, but she gets picked up by a policeman out of all the people she can encounter. This girl is lacked out. Out of all the people that she could have found, probably Sergeant Kenneth was the second best other than a military personnel. The two of them try to get to Fort Pastor when the military is actually trying to run it up survivors. But in the way they encounter the trigger-happy Andre, his wife Luda, and Michael. Michael tells them that the way to Fort Pastor is littered with the undead and it's possible to reach. They were a group of 8 and only 3 of them made it. Now their new plan is going to the mall, and Kenneth and Anna follow them. The mall is basically one of the best and the worst places you could be during a zombie apocalypse. Basically for the same reason, because it's simply amazing. You have unlimited food, unlimited water, access to tools, possibly guns and ammos if there's a gun store, and cars in the parking lot, which can give you an escape route. The bad, then it's gonna attract lots of people. There are too many entry points, and it's very hard to secure all those entry points. Lots of hiding places inside where zombies could be hiding and you have to check them one by one. Also, there is the X factor of looters. In moments of civil unrest, that's gonna be the first place that's gonna be looting for food and for resources. Luckily for them, the mall was actually closed down before the outbreak, so all the doors already locked, and they managed to force one open just before a horde of zombies got to snack on them. Now that we are actually inside, let's take a look at our survivors. Which, I'm not gonna lie, the group is not that bad, because we have Kenneth, the policeman with the shotgun. Judging from the tattoo, he also is an ex-military, so he probably has experience in managing like difficult situations, and he should probably be the leader of the group. Then we have Anna with her medical background, can be very useful, especially in a zombie outbreak, where the cause is probably a virus. We have Andre, he has a revolver, he knows how to use it, that's something. Luda is the only bad ship in the group. It never ends well for pregnant people, and she's definitely gonna slow down the group, poor her. And we have Michael at the back, which he's just happy to be alive and happy to be there. So what is the first thing they do? They actually all split up to check on the exit, which I get, it's very important to secure the exit as soon as possible, but you almost got mauled while trying to get in by a bunch of zombies and you were all together. What makes you think that going alone is gonna be any better? So of course they all get jumped. And holy crap, by the way, I take back what I said about Michael. Michael is freaking Jason Bourne. Andre is lucky that the doors were locked or he would have gotten jumped anyway, and Luda gets scratched. The best thing they could have done was probably stick all together and go check exit by exit. They had much better chance by staying all together, and they could have somebody checking the back and someone checking the front. Somehow they managed to regroup and they find themselves running towards the elevators, which is probably one of the worst places you can go right now, because you don't know what's on the other side and you're stuck in a metal box basically. And case in point, when they reach the second floor, they are faced with the security guards of the mall, which understandably point their guns at them because they don't know what's coming up. CJ, the leader of the security guards, after some back and forth and seeing that they have Kenneth, a policeman, with them, actually decides to let them in, at the cost of taking away their guns, which is actually smart because you don't know these people and they could totally be there to loot you or kill you. They all gather up in the electronics store to assess the situation, and here they learn through the news that the only safe way to put them down is to actually put a bullet through their heads. With so much adrenaline going through their bodies, they just become bullet sponges. But we also learn that the military is actually gathering all the survivors in Fort Pastor, where Kenneth is also heading to meet his brother. Honestly, I'm actually very disappointed in Kenneth. He should have never let Andre and Michael go alone in the first floor. If he didn't, they would actually push back the zombies so much easier and Luda wouldn't get scratched. Of course, she only tells Andre and nobody else. Michael actually manages to convince CJ that they need to start working together in order to survive this. And the first step is to put an SOS on top of the building in case a helicopter comes by to rescue people and get spotted. CJ agrees, and they actually split up into groups to clean up the remaining zombies downstairs and dump the bodies outside of the building. On the roof, they now notice that the zombies are starting to gather around the mall as some resemblance of their past lives. And that's where they see Andy, the gun store owner, stranded on top of his building. Suddenly, a military helicopter appears in the sky. The group tries to signal for help, but they don't stop. This is extremely bad considering how low the helicopter was actually flying compared to the people on the rooftop. There was actually no way they didn't see the SOS and the help signs that they draw on the roof. There can only be two reasons why they're not actually stopping right now. One, if they're actually full of survivors they are trying to bring to Fort Pastor, in which case it's good, they're gonna come back probably in a few hours. The second one, Fort Pastor probably got overrun by zombies and the military is actually evacuating and they don't have space for anybody else. Earlier in the news we saw the military bringing in survivors with open wounds in their face, which they were probably infected, so it's safe to say that Fort Pastor is gone. After this massive disappointment, they tuck in for the night, and CJ locks them in this furniture store where they can sleep, so they actually don't go around and steal. Buddy! I don't know how much Crossroads Mall actually pays, but I'm sure it's not enough to care to this much. Just give it a rest. The second day, a truck full of survivors finds its way to the mall, and they're traded by a horde of zombies in a parking lot. On the roof, the guys debate whether to let them in or not. CJ doesn't want to because everybody in is not infected and he wants to keep it that way. There's no way of telling if they are infected or not. And to be fair, he's actually totally right. It's a huge risk to let them in. But Anna argues that they cannot be infected because they are driving a truck. Anna, what are you talking about? You saw Louis and how quickly he turned the day before. What makes you think that they're not bitten or scratched? You have no idea if they're infected or not. Michael and Kenneth take advantage of the situation to take back control. And holy shit, where does that come from? Michael, I apologize for ever doubting you. They decided to risk it and let everybody in. And once again, what the fuck, Michael? He literally opened the door and double-tapped the zombie once in the chest and once in the head. Like nothing, in a high-stress situation. No. You're not fooling anyone. Best Buy salesman, my ass. This is literally a secret agent, I'm telling you. Certified Chad. Whoa. Absolutely not. Wheelbarrow lady is not coming in. I don't care, you don't need to be a medical professional to tell that she's done for. This is probably the worst thing you can do in a situation like this, because there's no way you can take care of her. You don't have the supplies, you don't have the personnel. And by taking her in, you risk infecting everybody. Correction, this is actually the worst thing you can do. Anna, what are you doing? Where is your medical training? There's no way you should be touching her without any PPE or at least gloves. You should have a full hazmat suit. I'm sure in the mall they have some gloves. She's a nurse the same way as Johnny Sins is a doctor. And of course she comes back to life 5 seconds later. But at least this time Anna takes care of it. Finally Anna puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that bites lead to infection and tells everybody else. Unfortunately, amongst the people from the truck, there was also Frank who was bitten on the hand. And GigaChat Michael, not wanting to take any further risks, he volunteers to take care of the situation himself. Anna taunts Michael, saying that if he wants to act this way, he should shoot anybody with an injury, without discrimination, without even checking. And oh my god, she's the type of person that would get everybody killed just because she feels she has a moral superiority. And that Michael actually wants to do this. He doesn't want to, he just has to. In the end, Frank realizes that for the safety of his daughter and everybody else, he needs to go and leaves the job to Kenneth, that at least waits for him to turn before shooting him. From the other survivors, we get the confirmation that Fort Pastor is no longer an option, because they just came from there and it was totally overrun by zombies. Now, with nowhere else to go and no other plans, the only thing they had left is to lay back and relax. And honestly, when it comes to Apocalypse, one of the most underrated things is entertainment. Because when the only things you do is sleeping and eating, it's gonna get bored really fast. And boredom and loneliness can really drive you crazy. Luckily for them, they're a group, so they get loads of socialization. And also they're in a mall, which is a fantastic place when it comes to entertainment. You can watch videos, you can work out, you can play sports, and whatever this is. The peace is short-lived. After only a few days, the electricity cuts out, forcing the guys going into the basement looking for the emergency generator. CJ tells Michael where the generator is, but he won't go further unless he gets a weapon. And who can blame him? Holy shit, with all those zombies running around. And here is where I have one of the biggest problems. They've been here for weeks. They know the military is not coming, that the Fort Pastor has been overrun. The first thing they should have done was securing electricity. What do they think? Ransom magic? Of course, if you have a generator, that is gonna be the first thing you secure. And the fact that they had the security guards that know the place like the back of their hands, and they haven't secured the way to the generator, it literally drives me insane. In the basement, they also find a dog. And guys, I love dogs as the next person. But you don't want to get close to that. You don't know if he's infected or not. And even if he doesn't show signs of infection, he could be a carrier of the disease, and you don't want to risk that, especially when you still don't know how it works. I swear they're doing anything in their power to not survive this, even though they have all the luck in the world when it comes to resources. And of course, they get jumped once again. What the fuck? This zombie with no legs crawled across a metal pipe without making any noise, like a freaking ninja, and jumped on top of the security guard. There was no way anybody could have seen that coming. Like, he was just super unlucky, he was done. This guy was an ex-Olympic athlete at least, because I called it bullshit. There's no way you can do it across metal pipes and not make any noise. By some miracle, they managed to reach the generator and secure it. But none of this would have been necessary if they actually secured the basement when there was time. They could have come down all together with all the guns they had, so they could cover their backs and secure the location. But no, they left it unattended. Why? Have no idea. While all this BS is going on downstairs, upstairs we have more BS. The old lady remembers, oh, remember Luda, the super preggo girl? We haven't seen her in days and weeks. I wonder what happened. Let me check on her. Do I want company? No, I'm gonna go alone. Oh my god. Why do you want to go alone? Nobody should be going alone. Andre went totally insane and wants to deliver the zombie baby of Luda, even though there's no way this is gonna work. She finds them and she freaks out. Because who wouldn't? Why would you do that? She takes out Luda with one shot, but then Andre goes for his own gun and they take each other out. Honestly, I feel so bad for her. She saved so many people with her truck in the beginning, and she's a great shot. But she made the fatal mistake of not keeping her gun on Andre because Luda was tied up, so she could have totally called for help and either take out Andre when he reaches for his gun or having the rest of the people dealing with Andre. And this is where the mother of all bad ideas is born. Kenneth decides that the mall is too safe. He doesn't want to stay here and wait for death to come. He wants to go somewhere. And they all concoct a plan where they leave. We're retrofitting 2 buses that they have in the basement and drive to the marina when they're gonna take Scumbag Steve's boat and sail to an unknown island that they've never been, so they don't even know what's the situation on the island. The only person with a brain that points out how insane is this whole plan is CJ. But he goes along with it because what's the point of surviving if you are alone? You're gonna probably die anyway. I'm gonna break down in a moment why this is the worst plan possible. But first let's see what they do. While playing Pin My Ride on the buses, the group also plans to pick up Andy on the way. And that's really smart because he has lots of guns and he's a great shooter. And you're gonna need guns in a situation like this. The problem is Andy doesn't have 5 more days to wait because he's out of food. They plan to send chips across with some food supplies, and that's actually pretty smart. It's a solid plan because they notice in the basement that the zombies are not interested in animals and they don't attack them. The plan seems to be working because he gets lowered from the roof with some food supplies and goes totally unnoticed by the horde of zombies. He makes the cross all the way to the gun store and gets in. Well, kind of, except for the fact that some zombies make their way in and bite Andy. Kenneth doesn't have the heart to tell him that bites and scratches lead to infection, and he's done. So he just lets him turn into a zombie basically. They did my boy Andy so dirty. They should have told him that bites and scratches lead to infection the moment they realized. Maybe he would have opted for the same pulley system to pull chips up from his building. Or he could have wore some sort of body armor that he probably has in his shop to protect himself. Anything, literally anything. But if we are going to talk about dumb people and dumb decisions, the crown goes to Nicole. In her empty head, she decides to steal the truck, drive all the way to Andy's shop with zombified Andy inside to save Chips, getting herself trapped. All this when it was already established that zombies are not interested in animals, so Chips is totally fine. So she put herself and everybody else in danger for literally nothing. Now the group has to figure out a way to save her from Andy. You know what? I say just leave her. She signed her own death warrant. That was the stupidest thing I have ever seen in any movie ever. But the guys are way more forgiving and they decide to save Nicole and pick up some guns on the way. Going through the sewers was a genius idea. I don't know why they didn't do it to bring food to Andy. Unfortunately, they closed the lid a little bit too loud, so they had to fight their way through the zombies. But they all made it inside of the shop. Here they gather some quick supplies and pick up the dumbest teenager ever. And CJ turns into Rambo. What the hell? My boy got some serious guns, and the trick with the propane tank to clear the way into the sewers was actually genius. Both ideas of the sewers and the propane tank come from CJ. Like, holy hell, he's probably the smartest person in the group. He was such an asshole in the beginning, but everything he said made sense. And the fact that in the sewers when Tucker broke his legs, he tried to carry him by force, and when he couldn't, he gave him a mercy shot instead of just running away from the zombies, shows that he's actually a great guy. The biggest mistake was actually to leave Scumbag Steve looking for the door on the way back to the mall. Of course, at any sign of danger, he will just run away and lock the door. He made it very clear since the beginning that he doesn't give a shit about anybody. Lucky for them, Anna comes back to open the door, but the zombies make their way in, and now the mall is lost. The only way out is to run to the buses and drive to the marina. The group narrowly makes it to the buses, but once outside they get immediately overrun by the zombies. But not to worry, my boy CJ has a plan. He throws another one of his propane tanks into the crowd and shoots the zombie version of the Uruk-hai from Elm's Deep. No one-liner, no jokes, my boy is straight action. The huge fireball clears the crowd and they can finally drive off into the sunset sipping Mai Tais. No, just kidding. All until Kenneth realizes there's one zombie left on the truck, and I don't know why people in movies just forget how to drive whenever there's the slightest inconvenience. But anyway, the old guy, instead of just shooting the zombie like they did 1,000 times before, thinks about using the chainsaw. And of course, a chainsaw and a moving vehicle don't work well, especially if the driver is a maniac. So he ends up chopping in half the blondie, and Kenneth flips the truck. I have no idea how they do that. The road was literally clear. They could have just shot the zombie. Heck, they could have driven all the way to the marina and shot when they get off. CJ stops the other bus so they can pick up the survivors. Finally, scumbag Steve gets what he deserves. Oh, for crying out loud, why is Kenneth driving again? There's no need to be driving like this. You could literally reach the place without doing all this. Totally unnecessary, and of course he crashes also the second bus. I hate Kenneth so much. And here lies the two tragedies. CJ has to sacrifice himself by exploding another propane tank to buy them some time. Michael doesn't get on the boat because while covering their backs, he got bitten and he wants to go like a G, leaving only the dumbest people on the boat sailing into the sunset. Oh my god, I hate this so much. They killed only two characters with actual brains and skills. But not to worry, in a twisted ironic turn, the island is also run by zombies. Because yeah, going somewhere you don't know is probably a bad idea when you already have the resources. And obviously they didn't scout the island from the safety of their boat. That would have been way too smart to use your binoculars. They went directly on land, serving breakfast to the zombies on a silver platter. And to be honest, at this point it's deserved. They did everything in their power to get eaten. So where did it go all wrong? Honestly, once they reached the mall, nobody should have died. The first order of things should have been to check and secure all the exits, going one by one all together with somebody always covering their backs with a gun. Cover up all the glass panels with newspapers and reinforce them wherever you can find it to not let them in. If they cannot see you, they cannot attack you. And judging by the image of the mall, they don't have that many glass panels, so it's actually pretty easy to reinforce. Luckily, most of the mall is made of bricks, so they won't be able to get in. After bumping into the security of the mall, I would actually ask them for a detailed map of the mall, so they can paint the giant SOS signs on the roof in case anybody's coming, but then secure each and every level, including the basement, the key basement with the generators, because you can expect powers to go out eventually. And for the same reason, I would collect as much tap water as I can from the taps and store them into containers. Although there probably is enough bottled water, but you don't know how long you're gonna stay there. One thing that I never hear anybody mentioning in these kind of videos is how to secure food. This fresh food, the fresh meat and the fresh veggies, they're not gonna last long unless you put them into a freezer. So another massively important thing is to find every freezer that you can find in the electronics store, plug them in and throw in all the meat and the fruits and the veg that you can freeze. Then I would actually take my time to study the enemy. As the Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu said, know thy enemy. We know that they are super aggressive and they can run fast. They're not the classical slow zombies, but they don't have any intelligence. They only have any animalistic kind of instincts. They are attracted by sound, and we can work with that. Even if we don't know that the bites and scratches lead to infection, we will protect ourselves anyway because we know that they bite. The best thing they can do is looking for a shop inside the mall that sells biker stuff. Those leather suits and helmets are basically the modern version of body armor. With all this, they can set up some sound traps with a speaker that can find inside the mall and save Andy before he runs out of food, and get some ammo. In order to understand if we can outlive this outbreak, it's key to understand our timeline. In the Romero version, they had anything from 4 to 7 months, judging from the pregnant woman. But in this version, it's much shorter. In the extended version in the DVD, is shown the diary of Andy, and they're roughly there for 31 days, which is nothing. The zombies don't seem to feed or drink or anything, but they still have to abide on the laws of physics. The human body lasts about 3 days without water and liquids. So even if they infect every day somebody new, eventually they're gonna run out of people to infect and die off. So there's no reason to leave them all. They can totally outlast this outbreak. If they do everything correctly, they probably have enough food to last at least a year inside of them all. The only two reasons to leave would be if they either run out of food or they hear over the radio or the television that the military is gonna drop a bomb, like in Raccoon City. As plan B, I would still retrofit the buses for a quick escape, but I wouldn't reinforce the outside because you're just gonna give handles to the zombies. I would reinforce inside without the bullshit of the chainsaw. You can just shoot the zombies. And I would definitely go for a national park where there's plenty of water, plenty of animals that you can hunt, and food, and it's very far away from the population. The marina sounds like a good idea in theory, but if you really think about it, you need somebody that knows how to drive a boat, you need the keys, and to get a boat out of the port, it's really slow. Did I miss anything? Let me know if you think so. But whatever you do, remember, don't let Kenneth drive ever.